So, what kind of nurse are you?
So right now I'm a nurse educator and I work in an acute psychiatric and mental health and substance use program. I've done
Okay.
some other types of nursing, including outreach nursing in the downtown east side in Vancouver,
Okay.
which is sort of
But obviously
one.
we psychiatric nursing right now in the wake of the pandemic with all the numbers is more important than ever. And
Yes.
I'm wondering, so you're working as a psychiatric nurse, you're taking care of patients. Do you have the same problem in Canada that we have here with the nursing shortage, where they're just not going to nursing school, there's not enough coming up the pike? Is the same thing up there?
Absolutely. We have that. We also have the issue in Canada where a lot of nurses were fired for not being vaccinated.
Right.
And they're still not back to work. So there's definitely every day nurses in every area of Canada are dealing with staffing shortages. We've had emergency departments in Canada completely shut down because we don't have the staff. We just don't have healthcare staff to be
Mm.
there. So it's at a crisis level.
So this first got started with you in connection with a billboard. Explain.
Sure. I had been involved in talking about gender ideology for several years, writing about it, doing events about it, and then during the pandemic, you couldn't do events anymore. A friend and I put up this billboard together that said "I heart JK Rowling." It was something that a woman in the UK did. Her name's Posey Parker, and after this happened, this was what spurred two members of the public to complain to the College of Nurses. When people found out that I was a nurse, they accused me of being transphobic and said that I would not be safe to care for trans or gender diverse patients, and that I should not be allowed to work as a nurse, that I'm dangerous.
Hmm. And had you done when you said you had a group that was active before this, what was the group doing, before the billboard?
I was involved in a few things, but I am one of the founders of a group called CAUSEBAR, which is Canadian Women's Sex-Based Rights. So we are a nonprofit coalition of mostly women, but we also have some men too. And we're across Canada, and we've been growing in the last several years. We have hundreds of people who are involved now. We've done things like sending briefing documents to the government. And right now, we're really focusing on just building connections and talking to other Canadians to just so that people understand what's happening with gender ideology and self-ID laws in Canada, which are really impacting the rights and safety of women and children.
Can you just give us an example of how?
Yes, it's where to start with that. So there are so
I
many
know.
ways that women and girls are impacted by self-ID laws, in terms of we no longer have rape shelters well, there's one rape shelter in Canada that remains sex segregated, but the rest of the rape shelters in Canada, if you ID as a woman, you're allowed to go to a rape shelter in Canada.
Oh
We
my
have
God.
male rapists, sexual predators in women's prisons in Canada. They're terrorizing female inmates. Um, Women's sports, as Americans know because they've seen what happened with Leah
Leah
Thomas.
Thomas.
The same thing is happening up here. Women simply don't have the right to their safe spaces anymore. And then the whole other aspect is children who are being medicalized and told that they were born in the wrong body. And Canada has actually made it illegal under our criminal code for healthcare practitioners to do anything other than immediately affirm the stated gender of a patient, no matter how old or how young they are.
Oh my God. This is like it's like this weird dystopia where it's hard to believe this is actually happening. This is a nightmare. The very
It
quick
is.
and steady erosion of women's rights in virtually all of their previously safe spaces.
Yes, yes, absolutely. We've even seen an example in Canada. There's a male who at one point was labeled Canada's youngest dangerous offender, who raped a 3-month-old infant and ended up in women's prison where there's a mother-baby program. So
Oh
this
my
is
God.
how heinous it is in Canada, and nobody seems to really care about women. If you raise any of these concerns, you just get called transphobic, and you, as has happened to me, you get investigated by a regulatory body and threatened to lose your livelihood if you dare to try to speak out or stand up for women or children.
Mm. All right, so let's talk about it. So you say you don't, at least one of the complainants, you don't even know who it is, but somebody complained to the British Columbia College of Nurses and Midwives. And why did they, like, what was the nature of the complaint that you were transphobe, right? And why did they take that seriously, right? It's like these are your biological and political views. You're allowed to have those views, or at least used to be the case. So why did they actually begin an investigation?
The BC College of Nurses did have the discretion to not investigate me. They could have looked at the complaints and said this is clearly politically motivated, as they clearly are. But they did not decide to do that. Instead, they investigated me. They sent more than 300 pages of investigation materials that largely was articles that I've written and tweets that I've made. And they tried to reach a consent agreement with me as well that would have ended this, I think, over a year and a half ago now. But they essentially wanted me to take a temporary suspension, sign a statement of facts that would be released to the public. And it was admitting that I had said transphobic things and
Oh
do some
my.
re-education, which the hard left loves to re-educate people.
Welcome to
Um,
China.
yeah, exactly. I'm surprised that they didn't suggest that I needed to be sent to the gulags, but so that was what they did. And I just said, no, I'm not signing this document. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm not taking a suspension when this is purely about what I have done outside of work. It's been going on for more than 2 years. I'm still working at my job. My employer doesn't have any issue with me. I've never had an issue with what I do at work. I think I'm a great nurse. And so it's very clearly, this is all about thought crimes and a regulatory body that's captured by gender ideology and thinks that they have the right to take away the freedoms of nurses and regulated healthcare professionals.
Is there any defense if they're this dug in on you're not allowed to have that view, you biological sex cannot be treated as real? Um, how do you defend yourself? I mean, aren't you just going to be found guilty? And like how do you get out of this?
So far, I've been to 11 days of hearings, with another eight or
Absurd.
so coming up. So I've been told that there are murder trials that are shorter than this.
Yes.
Um, and it is it's really difficult sitting and listening. The experts from the college are offering testimonies such as, some lesbians have penises, and you just it's like you're in the twilight zone. So I'm going through this hearing process. I don't know when the hearing will resume or how many more days it will be. Right now, I'm thinking it will be 19 days total. It could be more. After the panel that rules on the hearing, they're an impartial panel made up of members of the public and nurses. They make a ruling, and depending on what happens, it can then move into Canada's court system. It could go as high as the Supreme Court of Canada. And of course, I'm willing to take it as far as it needs to go, because I'm not okay with the BCCNM taking away my right to free expression, and every nurse, and they regulate midwives as well. And it's just so absurd that a profession that is mostly women, nurses and midwives, and biological sex is so crucial to our work. It's just, I like I said, I feel like I'm in the twilight zone, and I will
Hmm.
definitely fight this as far as I have to, because this is just not something that happens in a free and democratic country.
It's incredible to me that this thing is taking 11, now another 8 days. Like, how long? What is there to discuss? I recognize they don't see it your way, but are you treating in this as a psychiatric nurse trans people who want to figure out whether they're really trans? Is that at issue, or is that not a part of your practice?
No, and I'm a nurse educator right now, so I don't do a lot of frontline work, but that I've worked with countless trans patients. It's never been an issue, but no, I don't work in an area where I'm discussing someone's gender identity with them.
Hmm. You're just not allowed to
And
have these views.
as
You're just not allowed to have them.
100%, it's just about thought crimes.
Wow. So this has been going on how long now?
More than 2 years. I think it's at 2 years and 3 or 4 months.
Has this cost you money? Have you, like, who's defending you? And just talk about what this has put you through as a human.
Sure. I'm extremely grateful that my lawyers are funded by Canada's Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms. This is the sort of case that they take on, and that's an enormous relief. I could have used my nursing union for legal representation, but I was worried that they were as captured by gender ideology as the college is,
Mm.
and they've gone on to prove that, in fact, they are. So I knew that I had to find my own lawyers. I did, and I mentioned I have been working the whole time. My employer doesn't have any issue with my work performance. They're not concerned about me being a danger to any patients. But of course, it's very stressful having this idea hanging over your head for more than 2 years that you could lose your job and your livelihood and maybe even your home. I have two sons, one is 3 and one is 6, and it's just me and my boys. I am responsible for them, so
Mm.
it's hard. And then you see when you're at work and you've been publicly labeled a bigot, people I've known and worked with for years who don't even look at me anymore. It's awkward, but at the same time, I like to remember that this case is I shouldn't take it personally. It's not really about me. It's more so about this hard left gender ideology. And I think this case would have happened in Canada no matter what. And it just happens to have been me that is doing it. But I think it's really important that we try to fight this kind of thing in our legal system so that
Hmm.
we don't let these institutions control us and take our freedoms away.
I would love to talk to you about Bonner Private Wine Partnerships. They have these incredibly rare Malbecs that you must try. You got to try it. If you enjoy a glass of wine, I do. Try these wines from the extreme altitudes of Argentina. It's fun to even just to think about. The flavor is unlike any other. Blackberry, leather, smoke, little dark cherry. That makes everything better. And these wines are nearly impossible to get on your own. The producers deep in the Andes Mountains make limited quantity. The best part is they've cut out the middleman so you will not deal with a big markup. Today, we get a great offer in front of you. If you visit bonnerprivatewines.com/MKS, like MK Show, MKS, you will not only get the wine for over 50% off plus free shipping, you'll also get a bonus bottle of small batch limited production wine from their exclusive wine cellar. You can wow your friends with that. That's 4 bottles for the price of 3, and it's a deal that's hard to turn down if you are a wine lover like yours truly. Visit Bonner, BONNER, privatewines.com/MKS to claim your bonus bottle and become a part of America's most unique wine club. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.